everybody, and welcome to Soccer Podcast number 2, episode number 2. Today we will be talking Liverpool. Well, lots of Liverpool at least, and some Ireland stuff as always. So today's guests are Robbie Devine and Darren Laird, both Liverpool supporters, along with myself. So some interesting views both the guys had. I was very well informed, gentlemen. It's good to have on. So I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you at the end. Hello, welcome. I've just introduced the guys. Here we have Rob Devine and Darren Laird. Hello, boys.
Hi, Robert. How are you?
Good.
All right, Darren. Looking good.
Now, Darren, we need to see the logo. Yeah, there he is. Yeah, of course. There's the kiss and all. The kiss of death, probably, by the time this is finished. So, again, we had Tommy and Ken on last time, and we flew through the questions, and it was on very quickly. So, without further ado, we get to our first question. And as I pointed out earlier, United supporters have the WhatsApp group, Liverpool supporters, as in I'm a Liverpool supporter too. So we're going to go a little bit behind the Wizard of Oz, behind the curtain, see what happens real time, and I think it's worth talking about. So, Robbie, to you, Liverpool, straight in there, blip or implosion?
Definitely has the feel of an implosion, Rob. But I do feel a sense of perspective needs to be put on it. Liverpool had an incredible last 2 seasons, have been incredible. And they basically played with the same squad of players for those 2 seasons. They won the Champions League, and then obviously they won the Premier League last year, essentially playing with the guts of 12 or 13 players, but mainly the same starting 11 every week. They suffered no major injuries last year. Except Matip, he played, I think, 13 games last season. Gomez managed to play 35. Lovren, who was our fourth choice centre-half, he played 15 games last year. They sold him in the summer and he wasn't replaced. I feel that's been an issue. And obviously then you have the key injuries to Van Dijk, Gomez, Matip. The knock-on effects that we've had is having to move midfielders back into defence. Which has changed the whole dynamic of the side. So I know Man United fans or other fans are going around saying Liverpool are making excuses. They're genuine. I don't see them as excuses. I see them more so as reasons, and genuine reasons as to why Liverpool are suffering the type of season that they're having this year. I've never ever known a side or defending champions of the Premier League to have as many key injuries to key players in the times that I've been following football, which is over 30 odd years. I've never known it, and we're now starting to see huge problems for me. Go back to 2019, Liverpool's net spend after they won the Champions League was 4.5 million on players. That side then went on to play in an ordinary amount of games, 11 or 12 players. They won the league. It was amazing. After 30 years, we're all delighted. Hip, hip, hooray. And then we get to the summer. And I feel that, for me, FSG haven't supported Klopp in the way that other managers and other teams and other clubs in the Premier League, not just City or Manchester United, who are the big spenders, but other clubs have spent considerably more money than Liverpool in the last 4 or 5 seasons, or since Klopp has been there. In the net spend, we rank as 14th in the league for spending money on players. And that has a knock-on effect. You can't ignore that. They had, like I say, last year, all their top players, key players, Mane, up front Mane, Firmino, Salah, none of these players were injured. They had a couple of knocks in midfield with Fabinho and Henderson. They missed a handful of games, but they had enough cover there. And then there was plenty of cover in central defence. There was no issues there. We had no injuries to Trent Alexander or Robertson. So we essentially went through a whole pretty much 2 seasons without having any key injuries to key players in the squad. And that's affected, obviously, the injuries that we've had this season, which is crazy when you think about it, how many injuries we had has affected us. So if you want to call it excuses or call it reasons, whatever you choose, it's fact-based. It's very difficult to win a Premier League or challenge for major trophies if you've lost 3 of your key players in central defence. And then that knock-on effect, like I said, you've got Henderson and Fabinho filling in, who are essentially our best 2 midfielders, filling in as central defenders. I'm sure the Man United didn't have to say at the start of the season, if we lose Vidic or Rio Ferdinand, we'll stick Roy Keane back in there at centre half. And our City, they're not playing Gundogan and Rodri at centre half. They've got multiple choices there. So I think it's been a bit unfair and it's been very biased. The criticism's being levelled at Liverpool, considering the injuries that they've suffered.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that, you know, having somebody like, you know, with Van Dijk being out, but having Fabinho and Henderson, an engine that helped keep the press high, which then ultimately helped up front. But I mean, you know, I think other people will be interested in hearing what we've got to say. And this is what we're here to do. We're here to talk about as supporters. Forget about anybody else, just exactly your own opinion. But it's it. What I would like to say is, like, you know, as I'm hearing you there, I can hear other voices sort of saying, so is that why you lose to Fulham and, you know, you do poorly against Burnley at home? You know, is that ultimately still there's no goals being scored?
No, but it's like there's a sequence of events that occur in anything, in any disaster. And there is that sequence of events and that knock-on effect. And at this stage now, the team looks totally jaded. They look like they've run out of ideas. There's key players that are not performing. And it's so, people are going to be saying you just blaming the injuries, but it does have a knock-on effect. It's real. And it has impacted the team in so many ways. Confidence is now gone. I don't like to be listening. I'm not into this excuse that we're missing the fans and all that. All clubs have fans. Anfield is a famous stadium, and I get all that, and there's been some magical moments there. But I think that's a very weak excuse. The excuse or the reason, I don't even like the word excuse, as I've said previously. I feel that those reasons of missing so many key players has had a knock-on effect. And look, you can't accept the performance on Sunday was diabolical. And but there's a lot of players playing in that team, Rob, that were never even going to be a part of the squad. Like Reece Williams they were looking to loan him out to the Championship. They were looking to sell Phillips. He was never going to be in the squad. They were talking up some 18-year-old French centre half, Bobby Comamito, in the summer and pre-season friendlies, and he hasn't had a sniff. So there's players on that playing on Sunday that wouldn't get into that first team. They would never have gone into the first team last year, and they certainly don't deserve to be in the team this year. So, it is an excuse. The squad isn't strong enough. That's my excuse or my reason, and that's basically what we're witnessing now. We're witnessing a very weakened squad. Whose fault is that? We go to that next.
Well, you know, this is it. I mean, you're going to have situations where, you know, you'll have some people saying, well, if you named it, well, obviously Sunday was a little bit different. I think he'd had enough. Klopp had enough, and he said, right, that's it. I'm bringing some of the boys in. You know, dropping Thiago, and you know, you've had Jota, Thiago. Wait, till we get these players back, and you know, they haven't. Jota hasn't really had much time, but I guess, you know, people will still say, you know, but you've got the talent there that has proved it. But maybe the back.
You mentioned Thiago there. Thiago hasn't had a chance to play with Henderson and Fabinho in midfield, who are, like I say, they are our two best midfielders. You can argue Wijnaldum over the last couple of seasons, and he's certainly been excellent this year. He's probably going to be gone in the summer. But Thiago has been moved around. He suffered a bad injury as well when he against Everton. And he hasn't yet got a chance to play in a strong Liverpool side. And I think the jury is still out on how he's going to impact the team. But I'd certainly like to see him getting a little bit more support from Liverpool supporters. He hasn't had the opportunity, like I say, to play within Liverpool's best 11, which he was brought in to do. So I'm going to wait on that one until next year, because there has to be a bit of common sense and a bit of fairness to it when you're looking at players or criticising players. He was brought in to do a job. He certainly didn't think he was going to be playing in that type of midfield for the whole season. And he did get that injury against Everton. And I like him as a player. I think he's a quality player. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing him playing beside Fabinho and Henderson next year.
Great. Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I appreciate that, Rob. Darragh, I guess, you know, moving on, Rob has identified how he feels about the whole thing at the moment. What's your take on it?
Yeah, well, blip or implosion. I don't know, it's somewhere in between, I think. A lot of people try to pigeonhole FSG, but everybody knows FSG model. They came in, bought a successful English club. They tried to replicate with the Glazers, or probably doing with Manchester United. But Liverpool were coming from a less of a base than United were. They had 43,000 people. United had 76,000 people. Massive financial ticket thing generating income. United were spending, but they were generating income. Liverpool didn't have a proper training facility. The American model was build your stadium, make it a spectacle for the punters, build your top of the range training facilities, make it great for the players. Then FSG done this, then they decided to price hike the tickets. The Scousers, the Liverpool people, the Liverpool fans said, no, we're not having money there. So they had to roll back on that. So that's going to impact on their finances. So when Jurgen goes looking for a 50 million player, you're only getting 30. So that's a knockout. That's one part of it. And everybody in Liverpool knows that's the model of the Americans. There's no Sheikh Al Mansour, there's no Roman Abramovich with a bottomless pit of money to spend 60 million on a Kai Havertz or 90 million on a Ruben Diaz or whatever. So that's not there for Liverpool. So Jurgen Klopp knows this, so he knows he has to balance the books. And Raz Robbie highlighted the last 3 years, 13 or 14, the same players playing. No squad depth. Of course, you're going to have any squad depth when the 6 or 7 lads you have in your 20-man squad aren't getting a sniff. They're getting 5 minutes here, 6 minutes there. How are they supposed to perform when they're called upon? But you see it happening now. Oh, yeah, he might have made a deal with the devil in the last 2 years and he didn't get any serious injuries. But now he's really getting injuries. And when you look at all the injuries, only one of them, which is Virgil van Dijk, where he was physically assaulted and your man should be in jail for. The rest of them are all muscular. They're all muscular injuries from wear and tear. And it's fatigue. It's their tired side. And it's the dynamics of, the left side of the centre half has to play well with the left forward, the right side of the centre half to play well. And you throw one out, you're throwing 2 right side midfielders into the back four. And it's the whole dynamic of how they gel together. And Klopp's whole thing with the gegenpressing is to play that speed at hassle players. And you look at 60% of Liverpool's goals in the last 3 years came from the top 3 lads, robbing a centre half or robbing a right forward and passing a 1-2 and the ball's back to the net. The other 30% of their goals in the last 2 or 3 years has come from their 2 wing backs. And the last 10% of their goals in the last 2 or 3 years has come from their centre half, VVD, who's getting a header from a set piece. Outside of that, they've no other goal threats. So you negate them 3 and Liverpool aren't scoring goals.
Yeah.
3 lads are tired. They're not hassling anybody anymore. They look spent. So the 2 lads, the wing backs, couldn't cross their legs, never mind cross a football. And then you've got VVD, he's gone. There's no threat from a corner. They haven't even, I don't think they put a header on from a corner on target this year, I think. So it's I think the Klopp, for all my criticism, he's a great manager. He's full of personality, he's brilliant, his enthusiasm is great. He's replicating what he's done at Dortmund. He was 5 years in Dortmund, a couple of years to set up, a couple of years of great success and 2 German titles from the Champions League. And in his 5th season in Dortmund, he got 8 injuries to that team. You've Gundogan, Joe Walker, Marco Reus, all these guys, 8 injuries. They finished 8th that season. And Dortmund got chucked them. So is this history repeating itself? Or is this pure coincidence? I don't know.
Oh well, of course, it's coincidence. That's a different television station to be talking about theories. But I think what's interesting is having Klopp there and understanding, is he a fighter? Is he going to stay or go? I mean, I know a lot of discussion has gone on. Okay, different teams have different financial situations. For the like of Pep Guardiola, for example. I mean, a lot of us play fantasy football, but we're afraid to pick a City player because he's going to be rotated. So obviously that's in a situation where you can rotate that. But for example, Klopp on Sunday, I think a lot of us sort of said, "Come on, make some changes. We need to make some changes here." Then you had pundits turning around saying, "Well, he doesn't. He doesn't have. Where's the faith he has in his players? So if he's changed them all, he's thrown them all under the bus." So as Sunday proved that, Sunday was a lot of changes there for tiredness, and it was probably the worst out of a lot of them because we ran out of ideas. I mean, I know you've been advocating there privately to us on text and stuff, that there is no plan B. So what's the option there? Is it all falls to Klopp in the plan B? mean, I know I want to get down to bare tax there with you with regards to Klopp and stuff. You know, he has done what he's done in the last 5 years, which has been miraculous. But now and over the last year, you've advocated that enough's enough.
Yeah, no, look, he made 7 changes for the full game, and they had more shots on target, and they hit the crossbar, the post, more than they've done the last 7 8 games. So it wasn't that negative. People just thought it was negative because we were beating 1-0 at home by Fulham. We don't get beaten by 1-0 at home by Fulham. And it's the last they won once in 27 years or something at Anfield. So does he change from a 4-3-3? No, he'll never change from a 4-3-3. I think that's his formation. That was his formation at Dortmund. That's his formation at Liverpool. So he's not going to change his formation. I'm not going to twist it up and throw something different and oppose the manager. Then he has to replace his 4-3-3 players he has and make better, younger, faster, more skillful, I don't know, stronger, whatever. Does he get a fresh bit of meat in and run them new greyhounds? Yeah, because outside of that, I can't see him changing the system. I just think he's too headstrong, not old, but just that's him. He's like a Mourinho. He has a philosophy, he has a play, and he won't evolve. So, yeah, to answer your question. We're stuck with 4-3-3, and he has to get new players in. So it could be a long road before he gets that team back. That team won't come back. The average age of the Liverpool squad on PremierLeague.com is 25.6 years of age. That's because he has a lot of young lads in it. But the average age of the first team is 29.2.
Mm-hmm.
That's too old. That's too old to gegenpress and run around like greyhounds for 90 minutes of a match.
Yeah, but where is he going to get the money to buy players to come into that team?
Well, that's it. He has to be a genius and an Arthur Daly, and he has to mix it between bargain boys, 1 or 2 decent signings, and a couple of young lads. He has to be look Liverpool. You look at Liverpool's last 6 games. The man of match in 4 of them has been Curtis Jones. Curtis Jones cost us 0 money. You know, and the last two or 3 seasons before that, one of our outstanding players, Trent Alexander-Arnold, he cost us 0 money. You've
only got 2 players there, Darren, in the last 5 years
exactly.
that have come in for no money. Chelsea have Mason Mount. All these teams are eventually going to get one or 2 golden generation players where they come into the side. But the reality is, to challenge for the Premier League or to challenge in Champions League, you have to purchase players. So, you know, we can argue the toss about Klopp and Klopp's philosophy and FSG and their philosophy and how they do their business. The reality is that Liverpool fans, or if you're a United fan or a City fan or a Leicester City fan, we're interested in seeing what the club overall are going to do about bringing in players into the first team. Talking about youth players, we had Jordan Ibe. You had multiple Adam Morgan, with all these great players supposedly coming into the squad, and they never made it. So Liverpool didn't win the league or the Champions League with Curtis Jones in the team. Trent Alexander is a fantastic player, and he's come into the side, and he's a big part of them winning the league and the Champions League. But there doesn't seem to be anything else there in the young players. They have Elliott out on loan in the Championship. Brewster went down to the Championship and scored a handful of goals. He couldn't get into the Liverpool team when he came back to the Premier League. Outside of Elliott, who else do they have that can come into that team? Poor Nico Williams looked way out of his depth at the weekend. He was caught out of position on several occasions. I know you're going to disagree and you think he's a great player. I think he has potential. I think he needs a loan move, possibly to another Premier League team or the Championship team. Whether that's going to happen or not, I don't know. Is Trent Alexander going to be moved out right full into midfield? I don't think that will happen either. So it's really going to come down to, for me, in the summer, are FSG going to change or tweak their model and spend some of their own money and not just spend money from player sales? The majority of the money spent by FSG has been on the back of player sales. They've spent 105 million in the 5 seasons that Klopp has been there. City have spent maybe 700 million. I know there are different owners and there's different pool of resources in relation to buying players. But even Manchester United and several other sides have spent 2 or 3 times more than Liverpool. It's the real concern is with FSG is that, and it showed up this year, when there was a problem with Van Dijk and then a problem with Gomez, there was no concerted effort made by the club to replace or to get a centre-half in for January when we really needed them, when we had the chance of staying in the top four. Forget about winning the Champions League or winning the league. We had the opportunity to stay in the top four. We were top of the league at Christmas. There was no contingency put in place to get a centre-half in. And that's a worry. If you can't spend it, he wanted that Marseille player in, Carr, for 20 million or 25 million. And that should have been made available. I'm really, really concerned that a corporation or a business franchise like FSG weren't able to find 20 to 25 million. Having spent only 4 to 5 million in 2019, and their net spend for the summer just gone was paltry as well, that they weren't able to somehow find 25 million for Klopp to get that centre-half into the team, to get us through the season and get us into the Champions League for next year. I'm not saying that would have guaranteed a Champions League position, but it certainly would have helped. He's got a young lad in from Germany that's been playing in two relegated German sides for the last 2 years. He hasn't even given that poor lad Davies a run. I don't even think he gets a game in the five-a-sides in training. It's that bad. And he doesn't look like he's going to get a game. So, you know, what's going to happen? Something has to give in the summer. Is Klopp going to be left with another 20 million or 30 million to spend on players to try and rejuvenate that squad? You've just mentioned that our core players are practically 28 and a half or 29. Where Henderson is starting to pick up a lot of injuries the last couple of seasons, he's missed games. So a lot of these players are going to have to be eased out with the team. And are they going to have to sell key players to buy more players, which has been the FSG model as well. And I think Klopp has done a really, really good job of being able to deal with how FSG do their business. But they're going to have to spend money in the summer if we want to have a shot at winning another league title or possibly winning a Champions League.
Well, just to cut across you there, because we don't want to spend the whole evening, although some people do want us to talk about Liverpool. But I would pull that to you, Darren. So Rob, you're suggesting during the summer and the change. I think as Liverpool supporters, we want the season to be over as quickly as possible. I don't think there's any denying that. But now we're in the situation of qualifying for the Champions League. I think deep down we're sort of secretly hoping we'll win the thing, to qualify directly for it next year. But I think the summer is going to be, it's going to be a very difficult thing to qualify for the Champions League. So what are we, Darren, how are we going to attract players? What's the changes going to be for next year?
I think the carrot will always be carrot to play at Anfield, play at Liverpool, play for Champions League and a team, whether we're in or not. I think the Premier League is a big draw for any player to play in. The Champions League is an added incentive. I don't think Klopp will have a problem attracting people because everybody seems to want to come to play in England. There's nobody going to Spain now because Barcelona and Real are in dire straits there. They have a lot of has-beens on the team. Inter are top of the league with Christian Eriksen, Ashley Young, Romelu Lukaku, Alexis Sanchez all playing. Come on. So they're all gonna want to come to England. So if Chelsea and Roman spent a lot of money, and the rest of them all spent a lot of money, there's going to be a space there for somebody to play for Liverpool if they're good enough. So I don't think there's any problem attracting. I got just going back on Rob's point there about Chelsea. Chelsea last year when they had that transfer ban, they played a lot of their young lads, and they were brilliant that season. Brilliant last season. When they get started into the trouble when the ban got lifted and Roman let us swallow it out again, and their man went spending like there was no tomorrow, and then couldn't fit him into that team, and then he gets the sack. So Rob, you can have a bottomless pit of money all day long, it doesn't buy you anything.
Well, I think
hang on, find that right blend to get everything. That kind of way. Like City, Pep is experienced. He's an old dog for the road, and he knows the ins and outs of it. And City have made a couple of, I wouldn't say bad boys, but majority good boys. But it's not all be all and end all. Remember, Real Madrid spent millions on the Galacticos years ago. Then they went on for 2 years. So it's finding that balance. You have to find a balance.
Yeah, and then they won 6 European Cups in about 7 or 8 years.
One of the Galacticos, they were all gone.
Look, I know what Darren is saying, and Chelsea had to bring in some young players, but they'd spent multi-millions in previous seasons. So they had to pick of young players there anyway. It all comes down. Look, a lot of the league titles come down to squads and the depth of squads, and that's why the main clubs, apart from Leicester, basically the big clubs are winning league titles and winning Champions Leagues. They have big squads. Man City did their bench 2 weeks ago. They had £520 million worth of players on the bench, and they did another £570 million worth of players playing. So they basically have £1 billion team, and the rest of the teams have to try and catch up. United aren't too far behind them, although United fans hate hearing that they've spent nearly 500 and odd million on their squad at the time that Klopp has been there, and they've had nothing to show for it. But look, I still feel that FSG are going to have to spend some real money for a change in the summer. Our Klopp is going to be in trouble, because it looked like there's a few players there in the last few games, fellas that he would have relied on, that are not doing the hard yards anymore. Whether age is catching up, or they play too many games, as Darren was saying. For me, Bobby Fabinho is definitely not the player he was, and he started to look like he was losing it last year anyway. So for me, in the summer, he was a player that they could have maybe replaced. For me, Jota doesn't come in as a like for him. He plays more on the left, and he sometimes plays on the right. So he covers Salah and Mane. They don't have anybody there to play down the middle, and he's definitely on the way out. Whether he remains a part of the squad next year, I've always loved him as a player. I'd hate to see him go, but I don't think he should be our focal point next year. I think they're going to have to go big.
Sorry, Robbie, just come back to there on the squad depth, as you say. Like the 5 years that Jurgen Klopp has been managing Liverpool, we've had 47 players leave and 20 players come in.
Yeah.
So that's a shortfall of 21 players.
Yeah.
That's a squad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you just think about that. So 47 now, 26 in the 5 years.
Yeah, I know.
There's a lot.
Yeah, it's totally wrong. And once again, like, there's two ways to look at that, Darren. You could say that was the manager getting rid of players, but he's getting rid of players that weren't good enough to play for the team. You get that 47 list of players down there, and you'll find nearly every single one of them wasn't good enough to stay in that team, or to win the Premier League, or to stay in the Champions League. Players are going to come and go out with squads. But for Klopp has come out and said, no, the squad doesn't need a major overhaul. I don't like to hear that, because you're better off saying nothing at all. Because he's obviously kind of, I'm already starting to get twitchy and thinking, Jesus, they don't have any money to spend in the summer now. So they're wheeling Klopp out to say that we don't need an overhaul. They said that after they won the Champions League, that they didn't need any players. They went on and won the league, and were somewhat proven correct, but they were very, very lucky. It's very rarely you'll see a team go through a season and have no key players injured at all, and that's what happened to us last year. I'm very much a favourite or a fan of Klopp and what he's achieved. It's incredible. Wait 30 years to see us win that league title again, and I definitely want to see him get the sort of resources. I'm not talking about Man City, Manchester United kind of money, but certainly enough to change that team, to bring in 4 or 5 quality players that can come into the team and start in the team and not come on for 5 or 10 minutes every second week. I'd like to see players that can really compete for the first team place. And if he gets that in the summer, I'd be delighted. Whether that's going to happen, let's wait and see.
All right, gents. I think we'll... sorry, Darren, do you want to have one more?
That's one thing. When Liverpool won the league in 86, 87, I think it was. They won the league, and Ken Dalglish meant that he bought John Barnes, Peter Bracey.
There you go.
Right out and John Aldridge. He wasn't
rock and roll.
Yeah, and he ran away with the league, even easier the next year.
Listen. Where was City then? Okay, so we're after we've cut into some of our time there. I was gonna I just heard something about VAR this morning, just with regards to letting the fans hear in the earpiece what's going on between the VAR officials and the referee. I mean, what difference that's going to make? And they're probably going to have to let do it. But I just wanted a quick opinion on that. I mean, I know we'll move on. I did want to have an Ireland question, but even if we spent a couple of minutes just on the VAR situation. So, Rob, just with regards, I think it is here to stay, because I think ultimately it's a £1 billion business, multi-trillion pound business, and mistakes are so important. It's just that fine line, literally, pardon the pun, that seems to be the fine line that literally can't be broken. It's like whether it's the arm or whether it's should it be the shoulder, should it be the foot. I mean, what's your opinion on VAR, or what would you like to see be improved with VAR?
Well, initially when I heard this VAR was coming in, I thought it was a good thing. I thought it was very positive because there can be watching matches, some crazy decisions going on with referees, but they normally used to even themselves out, as they say. We're in the season. I think if they get rid of the inconsistencies and stop it keeps getting evaluated every week and they keep changing it, and you're watching a game and you're going, "Jeez, that was a penalty last week," or "That was offside." Well, why isn't that? And I think the general conversations with everybody is, when you're in these WhatsApp groups, they go, "Was that a penalty 2 weeks ago? But that happened to my team when there was a penalty or whatever, or it wasn't a goal." I think if they iron out the inconsistencies, look, it will be okay. I think the major problem with what VAR has brought, I don't know whether you guys agree, but I'm a screamer when they score a goal. I'm absolutely going crazy when Liverpool score a goal or whatever, or if somebody's playing United and they score a goal. I'm jumping up and down. My wife comes down to me now and thinks all the matches are 0-0 draws.
I know, yeah.
And she's saying, "Jeez, the Liverpool not scored," and she's looking at the screen and they're 2-0 up.
I know.
And so, I'm just, when a goal goes in now, I'm just waiting to see is it being disallowed or something's not quite gone our way. And is that going to eventually creep into the crowds? Are the crowds going to a live game? I know it's different, but are they going to be at a live game in the next 2 years where the crowd's starting to go, "Jesus, is that a goal? Am I going to jump up and go crazy? Or are we just waiting to see what VAR has to say about it?" I think that's been a real negative. It's here, and it's like you say, it's not going. I would like to see them go, and particularly with the offsides, just before VAR came in the last few seasons before VAR, it was like go in favour of the attacker to get more goals in the game. So if he was slightly offside, now if the hairs under your armpit are ahead of someone's big toe, you're offside. And that sort of thing now is highly irritating. I do think that they need to find the perfect line as such. Whether they'll be able to do that, I don't know, because the lines, even when you're watching them every week, they move and they're almost moved to justify a decision.
Yeah.
When you foresee the lines, you go, "Oh, geez, he was onside there," and then all of a sudden they moved them again. They tweaked them, and just to justify a decision. So get rid of the inconsistencies. Start to favour the attackers more, I think, will help. So if it's not clear, a clear decision, favour the attacker, get goals back into the game. That's the way I'd like to see it change. But the level of officiating is atrocious on the pitch, and then it's not much better up in these VAR rooms. A lot of decisions have been crazy, but it's here to stay, I think. And but if they tighten it up a little bit, I think we'll start getting used to it.
Yeah. I think that's a fair point. I think we're all the armchair supporters the same way. The goal goes in, yeah, exactly. It's happened to me, the same thing. What score? Liverpool 2-0 up. Mind you, that was a long time ago. Dar, what's your opinion on the whole thing?
VAR needs to go, and VAR needs to be replaced by a VAP or a VAR.
Dar.
No. So instead of a video assistant referee, we put in a video assistant technician or a video assistant person, because the problem is there's two referees refereeing the game. So we're taking the power off the guy on the pitch by some guy up in a camera playing around with a load of technology. So you look at what the rugby lads do. Well, not only the rugby lads, say the American football, the NFL, the ref goes over and he has a look at the screen himself. What they've started to implement the last few weeks is go over and have a look at that screen yourself and let me know what you think. And I just think, if it means a couple of minutes slowing down, because it's taking a couple of minutes for this fella to play around with a fucking screen. As Rob said, lines going everywhere. So let the ref go over, have a look at it in real time or slow-mo, and let him make a decision on it. And then move on from it. There's two referees crack, or who knows how many referees are up in Stockley Park. It's probably 10 of them. Probably one fella on the mic, but there's probably 10 of them going, "Oh, that's that, that's this, and that's that," and that's what's happening. So I get rid of the VAR and call it VAT. Another form of VAT.
Get rid of the VAT as well.
Another one. Yeah. No.
Yeah. But that's what I think. And even go back to the old rules where ball to hand instead of hand to ball, like, you know, where the hand moves towards the ball. Like that one against the Spurs Fulham game was atrocious. Like,
Yeah,
that's ridiculous. Like,
there's been lots of them. Look, there's been lots of them. We'll move on. I mean, it's terrible. I think we all thought, great, you know, Hawkeye, like in the tennis, or even the guy brought it in, brilliant. It'll be. Here he goes. It'll be. Edit. It would be one of those things where, you know, we get it right, but unfortunately we're still back to this, as Rob, you pointed out, human error being dragged. I mean, when I first saw that thing, it was a match at Wembley, and the lines were all wonky and everything. Anyway, but okay, that's our bar discussion over. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, as the song says. So we'll move on finally to I like to at this point talk about Ireland, because we're an Irish podcast. We had some lovely thoughts, especially from Mr. Tommy Dolan, on favourite Irish players of all time. But I thought today, with the campaign, the World Cup Qatar, Christmas World Cup final, which it will be, I thought it'd be interesting to see your opinion, or to hear your opinions on the Irish team. Again, we've spoken about our Liverpool's goals drawing up of late. I mean, isn't it something that we've been proud? We've been a wall, we've been an army. The Green Army, but we still have always struggled for goals. When we had Robbie, I think it was okay. So I guess my final question to you is, it's a 2-part question, is how do you see the campaign? Is there, are you happy enough with the squad? Do we need more young blood? Do we need to bring in some old campaigners? Just generally, what do we need to do with this campaign? I mean, we started the last one so well, and again, it just all went to pieces. I think that was down to lack of goals. So, Rob, what's your take, and what's your hopes for the campaign coming up?
Yeah, look, I hate sounding pessimistic. I'd love to be really optimistic and say that we're going to do okay. I think there's a huge problem with the amount of players, the players that they have to choose from. Obviously, there's only one team going to go through out of the group, which will be Portugal. Then we're fighting amongst sides that are probably similar to ourselves. I know there's 1 or 2 that are ranked lower. We are struggling to score goals. We don't seem to have any quality players. Our best players, you know, we don't really even have any decent players playing in the Premier League. Not that I think they'd be decent anyway. I'm not. I hate saying it, Rob, but I'm not too optimistic. I think we're going to struggle for some time until we unearth, hopefully, a Robbie Keane or a Damien Duff. Like, we didn't realise how lucky we are when we had those players. We had, you know, Richard Dunn playing centre half, and we had a decent few lads getting stuck in and making it happen. And I think Trapattoni probably had the last best of what we had. Mm-hmm. And we haven't really had any players since then that you could say, like, you know, these could lead us to a Euros or a World Cup. So unless something comes out of the woodwork that I'm not aware of, maybe Darren knows of some superstar young players coming out of Ballymun or something that's signed for Brighton or something like that. I haven't a clue. We've no goals. Aaron Connolly, I don't think he scored yet. He might have scored 1 goal. For Ireland, he's playing Premier League football. Do we have anybody in the next tier? No, I'm sorry, Rob. I'd love to be able to say, yeah, I'm hopeful. It's great to see Stephen Kenny get the gig. I'm glad we're not paying some superstar manager $3 million a year. Hopefully, he's only on $100,000, the same as what you're wearing. And we're not wasting a whole load of dough on some superstar manager. It's going to be a few years, I think, before things change for us. So I'm not overly optimistic.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Absolutely. Dar, to you.
Yeah, look, echo Rob's sentiments there. We're probably suffering now from chronic lack of poor management we've had. Not only the senior team, but the under 21s. You're going back even to Trapp and Martin O'Neill, then Mick again. And they're going back down to Noel King, Don Gibbons, these geriatrics, managing under 21 teams that haven't got dated ideas. So there was never 21s were always, you know, I always think 21s are a springboard. It's international football, yeah, and it's giving them confidence, and they're going to English clubs and they're going to play for the under 21s. And, you know, the manager looks at that and brings it on. I think with Jim Crawford there now, who went through the hard slog of the championship and played a bit of before he got a bad injury, and he's taking his teeth with Kenny, and I think there's a production line there now. Well, like as Rob said, it's probably going to take 4 or 5 or 6 years. It's going to take a couple of European champs at the World Cup before we're chronically lacking in, like you would have said 10, 15 years ago when you were talking at the other podcast with the two Manx about Paul McGrath and all these guys. And there was a lot of there's no worries players in the top 5 teams. The Premiership. You know, you could probably say Keane Keller's sub-keeper for Liverpool. But our best 2 players after that are Mark Doherty, who's a right full, and Seamus Coleman, who's a right full. And both of them are in and out of the Spurs teams and the Everton team.
Yeah.
You know, outside of that, then, you know, you're hoping for an Aaron Connolly, an Adam Ida, and a Troy Paris, you know, a Jason Brumby. You know, I don't want to see James McLean wearing an orange jersey again because his pants, you're better than him. Like, you know, it's just they're just, yeah, it's hard to watch with them. But Kenny has to have it. I'm concerned about, I was always concerned about the inner workings of the FAI and all these, as Roy Keane called them, the prawns, not the prawns, but the suits that sat in the front of the plane while he sat in the back. And they're still there. And when you look at what happened with Alan Kelly and Damien Duff, you know, okay, Alan Kelly's getting on the wrong side now, but like Damien Duff, up and coming coach, Robbie Keane, Keith Andrews, all these guys have to come through, these ex-players and have to start bringing these young lads through. And we need these players on board, and we need a bridge, because chasing Stephen Kenny, whatever how good of a manager is, doesn't have that high ex-player profile that a lot of players could respond to, you know, that kind of way. So I think we need to bring these young lads through. I
don't know. Yeah, Jack Byrne maybe, but I sort of disagree to a point there. When Roy Keane was there, you know, you had somebody like that was had a very strong voice, with Roy Keane, and yet still the results were happening. I think as a soccer supporter, we liked what was happening to Ireland when it was Route 1, because we couldn't play other teams at their own game because we just get destroyed. But I think recently, over the last 5 or 6 years, we've been starting to play some better football, particularly with Kenny, you know, and near the end of Martin O'Neill's, he was just hoofing the ball up again, and Mick was starting to get involved in a bit of that. But at least with Stephen Kenny, the ball has been on the floor, you know, we've been trying to get it up front. We've been getting it up front, but we don't have anybody up front to finish the article. And that's been the frustration. But I think we've enjoyed some of the football that have been played. I think having the 2 boys at the back, but they probably won't be there now in the centre defenders. You know, they were a rock of strength for us, and then it sort of just fell away. Finn, my son, is always saying to have Coleman on the right or on the left to play the 2, Matt Doherty and Coleman on right and left full, but that's a different conversation. But I'm enjoying the football. I'd like to see us getting beaten 2-1 or 2-0 or 1-0, but at least trying to play football than just trying to hoof the ball from the back and just to bypass the midfield. Only reason doing that is to play teams not at their own game but against it, and that's when it draws a result. That'll only get you so far, you know, and that's why it's frustrating. But personally, I've been enjoying the football with the lack of quality that we have. Okay, listen, we best go because we're wrapping up. I told you to fly in. We've gone well over time. I don't know what I'm going to have to call this, but I did have 2 questions to leave you with. And the 2 qualifying questions. So this could be interesting. So very quickly, Liverpool to qualify for the Champions League and Ireland to qualify for the World Cup. Yes or no?
That's a no and a no for me.
Oh, controversial. That's a double no from the Bob.
Double no.
It's roll on.
Liverpool have to get past Bayern. They're not going to get past Bayern. So no, and then Ireland have 2 hopes of winning that. Bob and no, are getting into the World Cup. Sorry,
I should have been clearer. To qualify for the Champions League through the league, but through the Premier League. Sorry, I should have been more specific.
Sorry, the Premier League, we're going to finish 8th because we finished 7th. We're going into this new Mickey Mouse thing that's even worse than the Europa League. So we don't get that because we'd be going to Albania and Kazakhstan and all that. We need to finish 10th in the league. So we're 8th at the moment. So let's stay in 8th. Don't go anywhere. Come on.
I like 10th. 10th just it's a nice number for me. It takes out any chances that they invent another cup that we could play in. We finish 8th or 9th. So yeah, no, it's we're a busted flush now. This season is over in relation to finishing in the Champions League spot, and we certainly it'd be a bigger miracle than Istanbul for Liverpool to go to the final. Never mind winning with that team, because we've now centre halves, and but look, we've talked that much to death already. So no, it's a big no and a big no.
Big no. I think, unfortunately, and mine would be, as much as I am an optimist, I will probably We'll see. We'll see. I will just see, unless they get a run together, unless they just go, I can't. West Ham going to win all the games. Maybe we'll get a clean run. We've got 10 left or something. Maybe a quick. There's 10. There's your number now, Rob. We might put it in there.
Bob,
You never know.
Bob, sorry, Bob. The first four are done and dusted. City, United, Chelsea. That's the 1, 2, 3, and it's between Leicester and maybe Spurs for fourth. West Ham are going to be in it.
Yeah.
Spurs have Dele Alli and Gareth Bale flying now. They're going to come with a run. And Leicester have the points in the bag, so it's between them two for fourth. Nobody else matters.
Yeah, I think the door was open for us every time, and we just walked straight into it rather than through it. So, okay, listen, guys, thanks very much. I will, I'll send all the fan mail on to you when we get it. And listen, thanks very much.
I just noticed, Rob, I actually look like Rafa Benitez in the top right hand corner.
Go back. Where's my little Liverpool? Right. There's Mr. Klopp there now for you. There you see him there. There you go.
He's the man.
He's the man to get us out of it. All right, lads. Listen, thanks
again.
again.
Cheers, Darren.
Thanks, Bob.